Welcome to Rapid Fire Protists and Fungi. Protists, this is the first introduction to eukaryotic cells. Protists are really a grab bag of eukaryotic cells that cannot be classified as either animals, fungi, or plants. They're their own thing. They're mostly unicellular, but they can be multicellular, in particular with the algae. Any eukaryote, again, that is not plant, animal, or fungi is classified as a protist. They live in mostly wet, moist, and aquatic environments, and they can be categorized into the photosynthesizers or the non-photosynthesizers. So remember, bacteria and archaea are both the prokaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells is what we're talking about now, and we're going to focus on the protists first. Remember endosymbiont theory? Here's some evidence for it. And again, the endosymbiont theory is the theory that stated that prokaryotic cells were originally engulfed by an ancestral eukaryotic cell or an ancestral prokaryotic cell, which then became eukaryotic once that prokaryotic cell was inside. Okay, so the evidence that mitochondria and chloroplasts were originally a prokaryotic cell are listed here. Some of the mitochondria and chloroplasts both have double membranes. They are susceptible for antibiotics, much like prokaryotic cells. They reproduce on their own through fission. They have their own DNA, circular, and they have ribosomes, much like prokaryotic cells. Protists are really important in ecological communities. They're in particular in aquatic communities. They usually form the primary producers, which everything is built off of. And the algae come in three flavors. You have green algae, brown algae, and red algae. Protists form a huge range of mutualistic and parasitic relationships. For example, you can like corals and there's little protists that live on those corals. We have little protists that live in the gut of termites that help break down wood. And there's other parasitic relationships such as, for example, the little protists that live in mosquitoes that cause malaria. The three major groups of protists are animal-like, meaning these are the eaters. They're called protozoans. Many of them are ciliates, but they also include like the amoebas, which phagocytose their food. Then we have the plant-like organisms, or the protists, called the algae. These are photosynthetic. They have chlorophyll and chloroplasts, and they're the ancestors to land plants. In addition to algae, the big algae that we think of at the beach, there's other very small algae, which are single-celled, such as euglena and volvox. Then we have the fungus-like protists, which absorb their nutrients from decaying matter, but they are not fungus because they lack chitin. They can have flagella, however. These are the slime molds and the water molds. Remember, diatoms have a cell wall of silica. Dictyostelium is a fungus-like fungus-like protist that have really complex cell signaling behaviors. And then we get into the fungi. So the kingdom fungi, these are not plants. Plants have chlorophyll and chloroplasts. Fungi do not necessarily have that. They're multicellular eukaryotic cells. They have cell walls made of chitin, which is, again, a polysaccharide. They have both asexual and sexual reproduction through spores. They are mostly haploid, although they do have some diploid parts. They have extracellular digestion and absorption. They're heterotrophic decomposers, and they are made of mostly hyphae. Remember hyphae. Everybody getting hyphae. So fungi structure has this chitinous cell wall, which is very important. Most of the organism is made of hyphae, thin microscopic strands of cells that are in fungi. If you see a mushroom, the part that is the feeding part is primarily underground. This is the mycelium. The fruiting body is what is going to make the spores for reproduction. They produce through asexual or sexual reproduction. Okay. Spores. Spores are tiny one-celled reproductive or haploid units capable of giving rise to a completely new individual. So remember, if the individuals are primarily haploid, then their spores can be primarily haploid as well. So this is very different than like a diploid embryo, which is how sexually reproducing things come about. So spore-producing cells can come in either asci or basidiae. I don't think you need to know about those, but there are three major groups of fungi. We have the zygomycetes. These are the molds. The ascomycetes, which are yeast sac fungi, and then the basidiomycetes, which are the mushrooms. Again, I'm not going to test you on the details of these, but you really should know the fundamentals about what constitutes a fungi. There's two examples of symbiosis that you need to know. The first are lichen. You need to know that a lichen is a mutualistic relationship between a photosynthetic green algae, right, which is a protist, and a fungi, right? Cyanobacteria is another way that you can get these lichen, but in general, lichen is a fungi and a photosynthetic organism. The other one is mycorrhizae, a mutualistic relationship between fungi and plant roots, and these relationship really helps the fungi, or helps the plants absorb. I'm so sorry about the background noise. It's a lot. Sorry. The fungi help the plants absorb all the necessary nutrients. And you can also have parasitic relationships as well. I'm sorry, that's a disgusting picture, but it is what it is. Don't need to know my favorite ones, and that is it. That was really rapid